Glad to have you join us again. It's Business Breakfast. Let's get talking now. Nigeria's revenues have consistently come from two sources, oil and non-oil. The former, which is oil, has historically been the most significant contributor to budget finance of the nation. Therefore, Nigeria is an economy that is mostly dependent on crude oil. While Nigeria is arguably the most significant oil exporting country in Africa, the big issue is that the country's foreign earnings from crude oil consistently experience high volatilities. Moreover, the national budget of Nigeria depends mainly on the earnings from this commodity from the high percentage of the budget implementation. Undoubtedly, government needs to encourage non-oil sectors and also formulate trade policies to develop and promote competitive trade and investment in the sector. This response, many analysts say, will encourage development and growth of the non-oil areas without mincing words. However, the most imperative is creating an enabling environment which is necessary to reduce regulatory risk. Joining me now live to discuss more on this, on the recently unfriendly policies of the government on the non-oil sector, as well as its implication on the nation's ailing economy. I'm being joined virtually from Abuja by Mr. Olufemi Boyede. He is an international trade consultant and the Chief Executive Officer of Koinonia Global Services Incorporated. Good morning, sir. Glad to have you join me on the program today.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me.
All right, very quickly, let me get your thoughts on the event that you put together, I think, over the weekend about the recent unfriendly export policies by the government and their implications on the Nigerian economy. Can you quickly just run us through these policies and what adverse effects do you think they will have on the economy as a whole?
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for following the webinar. And starting from the field, I think there could be a misrepresentation or misunderstanding. Yeah, the policies that we periscoped have the potential to negatively impact the non-oil export sector and performance of Nigeria in the international market. However, our objective in periscoping these policies was not to say that government does not know how to make policy or that they are daft or anything. It was simply to highlight the facts. You know, I was reading something, a clip about 3 days ago that talks about the Cobra effect. I could share that with you sometime later today.
All right, sir.
Sometimes you go out thinking that you are doing something right to help a situation, but you end up achieving the opposite result. So it's in order to draw attention to these policies that ordinarily were formulated and promulgated with the government's, in answer to the government's desire to, number one, ensure food security in Nigeria, and then number two, as the Controller General of Customs, Wale Adeni, said, to curb smuggling. And then subsequently, there was also that as the Minister of Information who said he was reintroducing export licenses with a criterion that for those licenses to be renewed, you have to show evidence of having repatriated export proceeds. We also talked at that webinar about the plan or the rumored plan to denominate Nigerian exports in Naira. So basically we looked at 3 recent policies. One, the Export Prohibition Act, which I think it's about a month or 5 weeks ago, the Nigeria Customs Service explains to traders in the Wanu market that the president had given them the marching order to implement the Export Prohibition Act to the full. And therefore, until otherwise stated, Nigerian foods could no longer be exported. So that was the first one that we took up and discussed evidently and very deeply. There was also, like I mentioned earlier, the introduction of export licenses. And those who grew up in the Nigeria of my generation would know how really humongous, how monstrous the import license regime was in Nigeria in the early to mid 1970s, even up to the early 80s, when you had to go and process import licenses for everything. And when the Nigeria Export Promotion Council Act, then it was Decree 41, 1986, in response to the Structural Adjustment Program, the then government under President Ibrahim Babangida decided and determined to diversify the country's economy away from crude oil by now enhancing the Nigeria Export Promotion Council.
Yes.
The intention was not to stifle export trade, but to make it as easy as possible. And therefore, they removed the word export license, and Nigeria Export Promotion Council, through its various leadership over the years, have come to the very successful level of simplifying becoming an exporter in Nigeria. Simply put, as of today, you can stay in the comfort of your house and register to be a Nigerian exporter.
All right.
Out of the documents, very compulsory documents you must have before any ship or aircraft or even a truck will take your goods officially out of Nigeria is the Nigeria Export Promotion Council registration certificate.
All right.
So having simplified it that much, and then suddenly exporters are told, no, you have to get an export license. We are still waiting to understand what the implication of that is.
All right.
And they're changing the name of the export certificate to export license. It is a simple change of name. Maybe somebody can just go and swear an affidavit, or by a signature on a piece of paper, a circular can come out from the Ministry of Finance saying from now on the export certificate is now equivalent to an export license in Nigeria. If it is not just that, fantastic. And then the exporter can still continue to go onto the NEPC portal and complete the process of officially and legally becoming an exporter in Nigeria. Fantastic.
All right then.
But do we actually need that? Is that what we should be looking at? So we are of the opinion at Talking Trade and Investment Global that it should go beyond that.
All right then.
Also, and that this is part of the reason and part of what we achieved on Saturday was the understanding that even the Export Prohibition Act itself, that is now being invoked, exhumed, invoked, and implemented under the directive of Mr. President, as stated by the Controller General of Customs. Even that Prohibition Act was modified in November 2023 after rigorous work by PEBEC, the Presidential Enabling Council on the ease of doing business in Nigeria.
Okay.
So what we have operational now is a BFA, Business Facilitation Act of November 2023 that amended just the Export Prohibition Act. I think there must be about 23 or 24 other, including NITC, including everything that has to do with the business environment in Nigeria. Sections and segments of this previous acts were amended to make life easier. And under the Business Facilitation Act, as it concerns the export prohibition list,
Okay.
is the fact that the Minister of Finance may or has the authority to waiver to what do you call it, to vary the products that are actually under prohibition.
All right, now, Mr. Boyede, please permit me now to butt in now. So much to talk about, and we have little time. Now, I want to ask you this question. With all that you said, what would you say, in your own opinion, are the immediate challenges faced by Nigerian exporters as a result of these policies, and how are they adapting to these changes?
I am not sure that anybody is adapting to these policies.
Okay.
Yeah. And I say that with all sense of responsibility, because a policy that is developed on the table of a scheduled officer without consultation with the people on whom it is going to have an impact, without consideration or study or some kind of mechanism to get feedback on what the implications of a policy would be on the industry, on the trade, on the investment.
Yes.
That definitely, at the very, very best, will result in a lull, L-U-L-L, a lull effect where people are, like Chief Bola would say, sit down look. Where then they go safe? What does this mean?
Okay.
So it puts the sector into comatose for the time being.
All right. Now, okay.
For example, let me just finish this one.
Yes.
Nigeria is not only a signatory to the World Trade Organization treaties and agreements on trade.
Okay.
In Nigeria is the Director General of the World Trade Organization.
Yes.
And WTO frowns in its entirety, frowns at prohibition. So every country has a right to evolve, develop, design its own mechanisms for different objectives. Just like I said earlier, on food security is the answer. If you have a headache, is the solution to cut? Is it to cut off your head?
Of course not.
So we think that policies can be modified, can be generated, can actually be exhaustively rehashed and rehearsed before they are foisted onto industry.
All right.
And in this case, sorry, I don't think we have that much time on your program today.
Yes.
But just consider, for example, okay, we're talking about food security.
Yes.
But you invoke the Export Prohibition Act and say that beans is banned from being exported from Nigeria. There are two major varieties of beans that we have in Nigeria. There might be some other ones. There is the black-eyed beans and there is the honey beans, ewaroi.
Yes, I know that very well.
Nigerians don't eat ewaroi as much as they eat the black-eyed beans.
Okay.
If you take an analysis of the goods like foods that are exported from Nigeria, ewaroi will probably take number 1 or number 2 as the major foreign exchange earner under the processed foods out of Nigeria.
All right.
The blanket ban on foods from Nigeria includes ewaroi, and the customs has even impounded several truckloads of ewaroi that were destined for the export market. So when this gluts the Nigerian market, who buys? And then you put this side by side with the spirited, very comprehensive efforts of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to generate much sought after foreign exchange to show up Nigeria's foreign reserves and address the falling value of the naira.
All right.
These are the keys that will bring the dollar eggs into the Nigeria economic basket.
All right.
And then we just say, oh no, you can no longer export them.
Okay. Mr. Boyega, Boyede, beg your pardon. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but can we still extend this conversation on the show till Friday? Will you guarantee us that you're going to be with us on Friday so that we can look at other issues concerning this subject matter?
Friday, I am not too sure that I can guarantee you. Where I will be on Friday, at your 11:30, it will just be 5 a.m.
Okay.
If you can listen, I will text you the phone number where I can be reached. And if it is workable, we continue the conversation on Friday at your own 11:30.
All right. There's so much to talk about here, and you're giving us deeper insights and deeper knowledge into all of this. But unfortunately, time is really not our friend because we started the show a bit late, and then we just have to end the show as the time is right now. I want to sincerely apologize for this and also say a big thank you to you for taking out your time for being a part of the conversation today. Hopefully I'll reach out to you between Thursday and then see how we can make it up again for Friday. Once again, thank you so much for your time with me on the show.
You're welcome, sir. You have a good day.
All right then.